So tonight we're doing something a little bit different. We are talking about one movie in a very quick segment to celebrate the 60th anniversary of A Bucket of Blood by Roger
Great.
Corman, which is coming out on a signature edition Olive Films Blu-ray right here. That's Tuesday, September 24th, so that's next week. Doing this a little bit early to get people ready so they can get their pre-orders in and all that stuff. Because honestly, I'd never seen this movie before I watched it for this little discussion here. I'd heard about it, and of course, it's a showcase for Dick Miller, the great and late character actor Dick Miller. But
Right.
I'd never actually sat down and watched it. And you know, you hear things about the movie like this crazy, weird beatnik murder film, and then the artwork for the Blu-rays, this kind of kitschy, like 60s pseudo shag kind of artwork. And it says on the box, a comedy of errors, a comedy of terrors. David, had you seen this movie before? And is it a comedy, or is it a horror movie that's just weird?
I think yes on both. Yeah, I mean, I've seen parts of it because I remember when this was playing at the Chicago Critics Film Festival. Because Dick Miller was in town. Well, we invited him. Him and his wife Lainey came, and they were showing That Guy Dick Miller, the documentary. And then after that, I think they did a Q&A, and after that, it was Bucket of Blood. So I stayed around for maybe the first couple of minutes because I think it was like late on a Sunday or Saturday, something like that. I forget what a programming was. Anyways, I mainly stayed for the Q&A because I had already seen the documentary. And so I saw a little bit of it, and I knew about it. I knew that it was kind of, highly regarded as far as it, it being a Roger Corman film. And I primarily knew Dick Miller from his work in the 80s, Gremlins and all that. And then when watching a little bit of it, I said to myself, I have to leave, but eventually I'm going to catch up with this movie because I like that guy, Dick Miller. Yeah. As far as what it is, I think it's cool that you're asking that question because it doesn't, you can't really label it really. It's kind of all over the place in the best way, I think. Because it is odd because our brain wants to categorize it somehow. But I think the movie is also saying that somewhat about art in general and how, art becomes this popular thing and it can be pigeonholed and stereotyped, and well, what happens when an outsider wants to come in and take a crack at it and make his own art? Then what's his art about? And I guess that's what got me, thinking about watching this. Got me thinking about that, and I think it's definitely one of those movies that's definitely dated, but it's this great cool time capsule, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing is it's a strange kind of eccentric movie to be sure. I wonder how much of it is. It's definitely a social satire. It's a critique of the beatnik generation and that whole like coffee shop poetry. Yeah, that scene. And there are moments that are funny in it. There are some funny characters, but at its heart, I think this is a horror movie that happens to just involve a lot of goofy characters. When Walter Paisley, who is Dick Miller's character, he's this wimpy little busboy in the Yellow Door Cafe. He wants to be an artist. He wants so much to be like the people that he is surrounded by every day, people who are performing songs or painting or doing sculpture, reading poetry. But he just has no innate talent or nothing that he's discovered yet until he accidentally murders his landlord's cat. Well, murder implies intent. He accidentally kills his landlord's cat.
That's a great scene.
It is, and he decides it's very Edgar Allan Poe, right? But he decides to cover the cat in clay because he had bought this thing of modeling clay and he had no ideas, but he covers the cat in clay with the knife sticking out of its side,
Right.
and then passes it off as art at the cafe slash gallery slash coffee house.
Right.
He gets a little bit of success, and then people are, of course, as with any artist, okay, so what are you going to do next? And it's funny that Roger Corman's next movie, also featuring Dick Miller, was 1960's Little Shop of Horrors, which is essentially the same film, the same plot, except it involves a plant. This guy, this flower shop owner, feeding people to this plant that he's keeping a secret in order to grow his success. And some of the extra materials on this olive disc, they talk about the similarities between the movies and also Corman's whole aesthetic and his shooting sensibilities and stuff. So, in that respect, I think this movie was done very, very quickly by anybody's standards. It doesn't look rushed, and
No.
for something that's 60 years old, I mean, this is from a 4K scan of the film, and it looks great. There's all this nice texture and grain to it.
Yeah.
But it still stands as a contemporary critique of art, and as a cool little thriller. I mean, the scenes where Walter is killing people are weird, but there's also genuinely chilling stuff in here for something that was from 1959, when he unveils his first human statue, which was the spoilers, a guy gets a frying pan to the head. The murder happens off screen, but the detail of the gore in the statue, it's horrific.
Yeah. And that victim was Bert Convy.
Yes.
Yeah, you remember Bert Convy? In the 80s and 90s, he was this, pretty much a game show host, but I forgot he was like an actor.
Yeah, TV's Bert Convy. It was
TV's Bert Convy. He did like Win, Lose, or Draw and stuff like that, and a bunch of other things. But it was funny.
Oh, go ahead.
But it was funny to see him in here. What do you remember him for?
I mostly remember him on those shows, but just as the sweaters and the puffy
fro.
black hair. Yeah. But in this movie, he's like in his probably 20s or something. He's this clean-cut looking guy who's playing an undercover cop, and I thought it was really inventive the way that he comes to bust Walter Paisley, who up until this point really is an innocent character, especially the crime that he is alleged to have committed, and you can see the desperation, Walter really evolves over the course of this movie from being an innocent to being someone who kind of decides, as we've seen in horror movies since, that there's a justification for him killing the bad people, the wrong kind of people, in order to advance himself.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really good role for Dick Miller to play. I mean, he is showing a good deal of range. I think one of the reasons, I think one of the reasons that it works is because of the casting, but Corman in one of the special features hits on it that Miller brings a lot of pathos to the role, and even you could tell even in I've listened to a little bit of the commentary, and even the commentator was saying, just in the opening, look at the way Dick Miller's like body language, like he's kind of slouched over a little bit and kind of, even those decisions. I mean, it's just, he's really embodying the character really well, and making him, kind of believable. He is kind of a nebbish schlub, but there's this one scene when he's first leaving his job in the first, like, maybe 10 minutes, he's walking down the street and he's kind of noticing these two making out in a convertible.
Yeah.
And it was one of those, take a picture, it lasts longer. That line wasn't said, but it's kind of that thing. But I like where Miller goes with his reactions. It's like, it's one of those things where you're watching this couple kiss, and then it's that reaction you have when you realize you're being caught watching a couple getting, and it's like, yeah. And then he just, you could tell he has a longing for companionship and for being with somebody or being, connected with somebody. But, I appreciated that there shows a good deal of range in just those few moments. And you know, it's kind of like unlike something I've anything, and I've not seen all of Miller's movies, obviously, but it was just kind of unlike something that I've seen Miller do before.
Yeah, and you mentioned That Guy Dick Miller, which I also watched. I rented that on, or it's on Amazon Prime right now, and it definitely
Right.
everyone should check it out. It's a great companion piece to this particular edition of Bucket of Blood because Elijah Drenner, who's the director of that movie, he's the one who did the audio commentary, and so
That's right, yeah.
And he did it this year because he's talking about how Dick Miller passed away in January and how he was affected by that. And so it's when I was listening to the commentary, he's talking about the documentary he made, not as like a commercial thing, but just stuff that he learned about A Bucket of Blood and some of the other connected roles while making that movie and getting to know Dick Miller. And he referenced a book that someone had written about him, but that led me down this great rabbit hole like a documentary will. I want to find out more about this story and these people. So, yeah, I rented That Guy Dick Miller, and that opened up an entire other universe. He's almost like the Coen brothers. He's worked in every different kind of genre, but the second you try and peg down, like, what movie has Dick Miller been in? It's like, what movie hasn't he been in?
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, well, he pops up in Night of the Creeps, for crying out loud, yeah.
I forgot about Pulp Fiction, and I don't understand. I'd like to know why Tarantino didn't include him. I have a theory that maybe it would have been too much of a, hey, it's that guy, kind of moment. But, I mean, look at all the other actors he had in Pulp Fiction. I thought, when they showed that, deleted scene, I thought that would have been a great inclusion in the movie, but whatever.
Yeah, who knows? I had forgotten that scene existed until I saw it in the documentary.
Right. Yeah.
One of the weird tidbits that, and this is a testament to Olive. I don't know if this was someone at that company listening to the commentary and then doing the legwork to complete the picture or not, but it was a wonderful move just as a consumer because Drenner talks about this weird German prologue for the 1962 international release. The Germany, in their infinite wisdom, whatever studio put it out there, decided that putting out A Bucket of Blood as itself would not work for the audience. So they changed it to a sequel, The House of Wax. And they filmed a 10-minute prologue in German of Dr. Bondi from the House of Wax. I guess he survived or something. He became this crotchety old man. And Walter Paisley is his grandson. And so he's passing along his knowledge.
Wow. So it was a universe expanding back then, huh?
On the disc. Because the monk, you see, yeah, it's the Walter Paisley extended universe. But it's one of those things where I'm listening to the commentary and he's talking about this weird prologue. I'm like, man, I got to see that. And then it turns out it's like on the deep menu on the disc.
Oh, great.
Yeah, they really went out of their way. There's interviews with Charles B. Griffith, who is the screenwriter for the movie, and they talk about a lot of Corman's filmography and how Dick Miller was involved in that. So, I mean, this is one of those situations where Olive doesn't always get their stuff right, but I think particularly with their signature line, they really try and emulate that Criterion experience by going deep with the extras. I think they really succeeded here.
No, I agree. I think even their last one, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original one, was loaded with extras and great material. Yeah, I mean, I would love for them to, continue to deep dive and find these kind of cult classic movies and provide us with some great material. And I think it's perfect and very cool that we've got the director of the documentary to commentary. What better person other than his wife to do a commentary? Yeah, I think so. Bucket of Blood definitely plays with the whole plays around with the preconceived notions of the whole beatnik era. It takes place. It was filmed primarily in Venice Beach, and it definitely feels that way. I appreciated the cinematography. It's by was it Jacques Marquette? Jacques Marquette. He did other movies like in the 50s, Teenage Monster, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, the Great Fuzz with Jane Fonda. But I think Raquel Welch. Sorry, not Jane Fonda. But I think it definitely is some of the shots and the lighting. It definitely conveys like film noir type elements. So that in and of itself, like, it's funny because you're trying to categorize the movie. IMDb lists it as comedy, crime, horror. And so there's definitely, visual elements of like a crime movie. And even, some of the music in the movie, the non-jazz type music by Fred Katz definitely alludes to like, the music crescendoing, like when there's a murder about to happen or, somebody's in danger, and that's typical of kind of like the era. But at the same time, it's Miller who grounds the movie into something that's more tangibly human and more something that we can connect to. Yes, it's terrible that he's it's terrible the way he's making art. But I have to go back to that scene with the cat in the wall. It was just so funny because it's so random. It's like he's like talking to the wall. He's like, "Hey, how'd you get in there?" It's like his neighbor's cat, and it's like, what? How did I don't know. It's like, how do you know that the cat's in the wall? I mean, I guess maybe this has happened before, but he takes like what looks like kind of like a really kind of bendy steak knife or something and stabs it into the wall. And it's like, I was sitting there watching it. I'm like, I wonder how many takes that took, because the thing looked really like bendy or something like that. It's almost like a butter knife or something.
Yeah, it was like a weird wobbly bread knife because it was like really long, and then like, how long is this knife? Because he pulls the cat out of the wall, and it's like halfway in the cat. Like, what do you use a knife like that for? It's like a mini machete.
Yeah, I was expecting like a sound effect, like but it it was funny that the way the movie played out, because eventually there is one particular employee at the Yellow Cat. I think the Yellow Door. I think the manager at the Yellow Door, who's really early on, has an idea of what's happening, and it's confirmed. I think he's the guy who sees the cat fur sticking out of the sculpture, and it kind of confirms what he had thought. But it's like it's almost like he feels bad for Walter Paisley and just kind of goes along with it,
Well, it's partially that, and the actor is Anthony Carbone, who plays the owner of the Yellow Door, Leonard DeSantis, and he's like a really kind of a snobby guy. He's very businesslike. He tells Walter to stop fraternizing with the customers and bus tables, right. And he doesn't really respect Walter until he starts getting attention for his work. But when he finds out that his work has creatures like dead people and dead cats inside of it, his thought is to call the police, but someone then offers him $500 for this cat sculpture.
That's right.
And he agreed to split whatever he made off the cat sculpture with Walter, and initially the offer is $100. And this is a funny scene. It's not quite comedic, but it's funny. And it's also tense because you can just see the moral quandary playing out in this guy's head.
Yeah.
Like, I should call the cops on this guy because he's, killed this cat and maybe he's going to do something else horrific. But there's $500 and I don't have to tell Walter how much money I actually made from this.
Right.
And then later he sort of gets his comeuppance in that he becomes involved with these other murders because he didn't stop it when he had the chance. And when he sees the first human piece of artwork, it's kind of played for laughs, but you can also see the kind of, I know it's a black and white picture, but you can see his face turning green. Like, it's a wonderful performance.
Yeah, I mean, he almost he has to deal with the hand he's dealing with, because he's made his bed, now he has to sleep in it, and he's basically supporting this monster. Yet you could see why he's in this kind of moral situation here, but at the same time, something needed to be done, and not much is done. I mean, it just keeps on going, and I like how he becomes, Walter becomes popular, and he there's that scene where he walks into the cafe with his like little ascot and his little beret and everything, and then Walter, you're such a great artist, and but at the same time, at what cost? Because now, like you said, there's this pressure to make more art. That means killing more people, and I like that. There's at one point where he's kind of getting egged on by that the blonde character who's sitting with him,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, come on, your work's not all that great, and blah blah blah, and he's just like, I don't like you, and so where this is going. But yeah, I think there's obviously a lot about this movie that is you could kind of see where things are going, but it's one of those movies that you're so invested in the characters, you're more interested in how it's going about what it's about, and that's what was intriguing to me.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I guess there's some clues early on with how gruesome the killings are in the statues, or the sculptures, but it does have a really kind of a dark ending, and we don't have to give anything away, because I think if people have not seen A Bucket of Blood, they really need to. But it at times has this great kind of a Twilight Zone quality to it. It's very short. It's like an hour and 5 minutes or something like that.
Right.
And one of the things that I love is there's a supporting character named Max Brock, played by Julian Barton, who's this, the quintessential beatnik. He's got the wild hair and the huge beard, and like he wears sweaters, and just he's a poet, but he never recites the same poem twice, and he is constantly rambling on and on about life and the universe and the meaning of everything, or the lack of meaning. And he's so pretentious that you just want to see this guy get an axe to the head. But things don't quite turn out the way you might expect in a movie like this, and it's just another layer of delicious irony, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't too surprised by the ending. I think it's a great ending, and I think it's kind of fitting, because it's almost like celebrity and guilt and regret is eating up this poor guy. The Walter Paisley character, obviously. But I like the way it played out. It's funny you mentioned Twilight Zone, because even when this movie started out, the way it opened and everything, the way the cameras are panning and moving around, it felt very much like Twilight Zone. Mm-hmm. And of course, that's my favorite TV show ever. So this was definitely my jam. I'm actually surprised that Dick Miller wasn't in the Twilight Zone, but it would have been perfect. Of course, he did eventually. Wait, I mean, he might have been in Twilight Zone the movie, because he's in every Joe Dante.
He was in Twilight Zone the movie.
That's right. That's right.
He was in
the Joe Dante.
Scene, right, with Anthony, the little psychic boy. He was the guy in the diner.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
See, he's in everything. But definitely every Joe Dante movie. Again, I was watching it the whole way through. I was pretty captivated by the cinematography and the just the whole mood of the piece. It is interesting to watch. Like, I haven't seen. Roger Corman's definitely a director that I'd love to, bone up on and see a lot of his movies, because it seems to me that, he made a lot of the, Edgar Allan Poe, movies and stuff like that. But it seems to me like he kind of tried and dabbled in a lot of different things, westerns, whodunits, and so I definitely like to check out more of his work. And didn't he die recently this year too, or was it last year?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
All I know is that going back to that guy, Dick Miller, one of my favorite little anecdotes about Roger Corman and Dick Miller was that they were shooting some kind of a period castle horror film, not like castle horror, but a horror movie that took place in a castle, and they had Boris Karloff and Jack Nicholson and Dick Miller all in this movie, and then it wrapped 3 days early because Corman was such a freak about scheduling that they had Karloff for 3 more days, and they said, well, let's just make another movie. They didn't have a script or anything. It was just, I love those kinds of inventive filmmaking stories. Even if the end product isn't really memorable, it's still a cool idea.
Oh, yeah. And it was also interesting to be reminded that, Dick Miller and Jack Nicholson were pretty much coming up around the same time, and just to see where their careers were going or went. It's very, very interesting. And, he did a lot of movies with Bruce Dern as well. So, actually, for some reason, I'm pretty sure Roger Corman's dead, right?
It's entirely possible.
I don't know. I don't know.
Find out. Let's go to the IMDb and see.
No, it says that he hasn't died, but I could have sworn. Anyway, hey, if he's still around, great. But yeah, I definitely would like to check out more of Corman's movies. Maybe close to next month is Halloween season, so maybe I'll check out more of his flicks. I'm definitely interested in that. I've only seen clips of The Terror. Did you ever see that?
No.
That movie? Yeah, I have to check that out. And that's the kind of thing, like, I'd love to see that get some nice, Blu-ray treatment or something with some special features. But yeah, Bucket of Blood. I would say that if you're a fan, definitely check out this Olive Films Blu-ray. It's loaded with some great stuff. If you haven't seen this movie and you have access to Amazon Prime, you could watch it. If you like it, then you want to own the Blu-ray. I mean, you're going to get so much more out of the movie with all these special features.
Yeah, and I mean, I haven't seen the version that's on Prime. I don't know if it's going to look this good because this is a brand new like restoration. But yeah, it is a whole other experience, and that's one of the things I love about restoring old black and white movies and making them look so new and fresh. It's like it really opens your mind up to going back and discovering this whole other era of film. Because it's definitely one of my kind of blind spots is older movies. I need to fix that. Yeah,
so Olive is helping you fix it.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for talking a bit about Bucket of Blood, or A Bucket of Blood. I think it was called The Bucket of Blood at one point, and it's very interesting how it got its title because it doesn't really pour into a bucket; it's more like a pan. But
I mean, there's not really any bloodletting or a whole lot of blood, but then again, this is black and white, and we can't really see any red stuff, so.
Yeah. But all right, man. Well, thank you. And if you are interested in this release, it comes out again next Tuesday, September 24th, 2019. Time stamping it for the YouTube. And it's olivefilms.com. Look up Bucket of Blood and get you some. All right, thank you, sir. And we'll talk very soon about more movies.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
All right. Night.
Night.